Did you see the Bengals uniforms that they're going to be using as an alternate this year? Did you see them, Mark? They look like zebra cakes. But you know what? I'm all in. These might be the best looking uniforms in the league now. The all whites, man. It's about time we get a White Tiger uniform.
Dude, those uniforms are so ice cold. For those that watch or have ever watched One Tree Hill, I love that show.
One Tree Hill.
Love One Tree Hill.
Yes.
Those uniforms are as ice freaking cold as that slow motion shot of Nathan Scott sinking that game winning free throw when he's looking right at that his opponents. He's like looking right into his eyes as he drains that free throw. Amazing.
He pulls the MJ shot. Yeah, no, I when I saw that, I'm like, oh my god, these might be the best looking uniforms in the league now. Yeah, I mean, awesome. and they've had the white variant for the jerseys and the pants, but it's the white helmets that really drive it home for me. So I'm really excited to see those this year. But yeah, I had to mention that. It was amazing. It was amazing, and I know my dad, who's an avid Bengals fan.
Looks like he's in the chat right now.
It looks like he is. Hey, so speaking of the Bengals, we got to get to some of these wide receivers. We got a couple wide receiver tight end duos, and we wanted to kind of discuss some of them because there's a lot of them this year, and 4 in particular that we're going to talk about that I think there's a lot of discussion on, and I think in some regard there shouldn't be a discussion on a couple of them. But this was something that you wanted to bring up, and I think it warrants a discussion here. So Chase and Higgins, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins in fantasy for 2022. Look, I think a lot of people believe that Jamar Chase by default is the runaway choice here, right? And I mean, look, I agree. I think he is kind of the runaway choice to me, and for receivers, it's like Justin Jefferson and then Jamar Chase. Like that's my wide receivers 1 and 2 for 2022, and obviously for Dynasty as well. But I don't think T. Higgins is that far behind. Like, would it really surprise you or any of us if T. Higgins finishes as a mid to low wide receiver 1? Because we know Joe Burrow can probably support 2 wide receiver 1s in fantasy.
I think Joe Burrow could. I don't think there's any dispute against that. As long as the Bengals kick up the pace and increase the pass rate. Like if the Bengals are just in a situation where they're losing games more often, not necessarily like the final outcome of the game, but they're just trailing a little more so they can't just run the football as much as they did last year. Absolutely. I think Joe Burrow could set career highs in passing yards per attempt, touchdown passes, whatever, and he's going to bring T. Higgins and Jamar Chase with him. This discussion is so important because it's a game theory thing for me. There's so much upside between Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, but nobody would ever even consider that T. Higgins could outscore Jamar Chase, and it could happen. It could happen. If I had to put like betting odds on it, I would argue that it's probably somewhere near plus 250 for T. Higgins to outscore Jamar Chase. The reason this is such an important game theory thing, though, is it more likely that Jamar Chase outscores T. Higgins? Yes, he commanded more targets last year. He averaged more yards per route run. He averaged more yards per reception, more yards per target. It's more likely. However, let's say hypothetically that you are drafting. You're in the middle of a draft, or you just started a draft and you got like the 1.3, 1.4. You're trying to pick between Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. In that scenario, I personally lean Justin Jefferson. I'm going to do the rest of the draft now, I'm going to draft as if I'm right. So when I get to the 2-3 turn, I'm going to prioritize taking T. Higgins. Why? Negative correlation. I'm drafting as if I am correct about Justin Jefferson outscoring Jamar Chase. I'm hypothesizing that Jamar Chase had a down year. If Jamar Chase has a down year, it is more likely that T. Higgins had a good year, or, at least paid off at his 2-3 turn ADP in 12-team leagues right now. Just draft as if you are correct in the decisions you have already made.
Yeah, and not only that, but if you are at 1.3, 1.4, 1.5, something along those lines, and you're looking at running back, right? Like, then you can say, okay, well, I'm going to take one of those workhorse running backs here, and then later on, I'll just pivot to T. Higgins. So instead of taking, and that's kind of a route that I would probably end up going, to be quite honest with you, unless like I have, rock solid plans on somehow getting Joe Burrow in the second round. On the turnaround, I just kind of want to have that stack. But then, of course, you're waiting to the third round to get your workhorse running back in. Mark, that is not a plan I deploy in my redraft leagues. But again, even, and that's why you lost. But
lost
even,
what? How many championships were you in last year? I was in more than one.
4.
Okay. So we've concluded that your strategy and my strategies can work. I mean, I draft running back heavy. It depends on the draft for me. That's filthy.
Yeah,
That's
so
nice.
I know a lot of people are not seeing the live video stream right now who are going to be listening back to this tomorrow. But yeah,
he
so
broke out the championship belt.
Broke out the championship belt. No, I mean, regardless of what your strategy is there, I agree with you. I think that T. Higgins is an awesome pivot from Jamar Chase if you don't want to go receiver that early for whatever reason, or if you just want to pivot to the running back position altogether that early on in the draft and just say, you know what, I'm gonna get a piece of Joe Burrow, but I'm gonna get that piece way later on. I mean, we're talking about a guy in T. Higgins who finished as wide receiver, 23, 24 last year. So I think it's
that general area.
Yeah, I think
he saw 118 targets, but he didn't play the full season. I think he missed 3 or 4 games.
Right, and you're telling me that he played 14 games last year, and Jamar Chase played 17, right?
Yeah,
and he played 14. He played 14 games to Jamar Chase's 17, and T. Higgins had 110 targets. Jamar Chase had 128. So I mean, you extrapolate that out and give them both 17 game, or give T. Higgins an equal 17 games of targets. He's probably right behind Jamar Chase at 120, maybe even exceeds that. So, because you got to think, if T. Higgins is playing in 3 of those games, that's a couple less targets per game than that Jamar Chase is getting. So, it's conceivable that if T. Higgins would have played 17 games, he would have out-targeted Jamar Chase, right? But it's Jamar Chase's ADOT that really, pushes the pedal down for him as far as fantasy is concerned. But I think T. Higgins, if you tell me that T. Higgins is going to be healthy for 14 or more games this year, Mark, Joe Burrow's third year, and an offense that is going to give him more time this year with a revamped offensive line to throw the football. Look, I mean, I think T. Higgins could finish in that wide receiver 10 to 12 range. I don't see why that's out of the realm of possibility. We already know Joe Burrow's good enough to support 2 wide receiver 1s, right? And if Justin Herbert can do it, Joe Burrow can sure as hell do it.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I mean, there was such a big difference between Jamar Chase and T. Higgins as far as yards per target. And like that's a big one for me. T. Higgins was at 9.9, which is great. Like people need to understand that 9.9 yards per target on 110 targets. That's a great season. Yeah. Jamar Chase's 11.4 yards per target. That's ridiculous. I do not have the numbers in front of me, but that has to be top 5 in the league beyond a certain target threshold. Like receivers that had at least 90 targets, it wouldn't surprise me if Jamar Chase had the best yards per target. So
yeah, and
assuming T. Higgins plays a full season, though, it would not surprise me at all if T. Higgins could at least match Jamar Chase's output, and it shouldn't really be that surprising if he outscores him altogether.
Yeah, I wouldn't be I mean, I would be shocked if he does outscore Jamar Chase, but it wouldn't be like the craziest thing on earth to think about. I think look, we talked about, is some people think Jamar Chase should be the first receiver off the board in drafts. Look, I'm not going to argue with it. If that's who you want to take, it's completely reasonable. Now, I'm going to target Justin Jefferson personally. But look, it's 1A and 1B. I mean, flip a coin. That's really what it is. If you're going first receiver in the draft, you can't really lose there. And so, I mean, it's like back in the day when it was Calvin Johnson and Andre Johnson. I mean, flip whichever one you want. You know what I mean? So
we got a question here in the chat asked by Dusty that I actually think is pretty interesting. He's asking, what is Tyler Boyd's value? I don't hate where Tyler Boyd is going in drafts right now. You can get him in like the 9th or 10th round as the wide receiver 3 for what could be a pass heavy offense. It wasn't insanely pass heavy last year, but we're trying to we're trying to get out ahead of these things, right? We don't want to necessarily just look at what happened last year and assume that's exactly what's going to happen again this year. The Bengals could pass a lot more. They could be
Yeah.
throwing at a 65% pass rate, which is why, like, as my wide receiver 5, I'm fine with Tyler Boyd. I prefer him in PPR leagues because he's not going to score a ton of touchdowns. He's not going to be a big yards per target guy, but he can have games where he catches 9, 10, 11 passes, especially if one of these wide receivers in front of him gets hurt. If Jamar Chase or T. Higgins gets hurt,
Yeah,
Tyler Boyd through the roof.
Look, he had 94 targets last year, which is nice. But I mean, this is the ultimate litmus test for me when it comes to, am I going to have a lot of shares of a guy? What's his ADP? And it's not just what's his ADP. It's not just where is he going. It's who is going around him, because that's the context that really matters. So let's name some names here. Tyler Boyd or Devontae Parker. I mean, that's
Tyler
really,
Boyd.
I mean, it's a coin
Tyler
flip
Boyd,
there.
every time.
I mean, I won't blame anybody, but that's my point. That's my point. It's a coin flip for me. I don't really care. Drake London or Tyler Boyd? I'm going to take
Drake London. Drake London as well.
Traylon Burks or Tyler Boyd? I'm still going to take Traylon Burks. Yeah, Chris Olave, still going to take Chris Olave.
Same.
But this is where you're entering these rookie wide receivers, right? Like, this is the rookie wide receiver era. So there's 3 rookie wide receivers that we just named that we're not taking Tyler Boyd over. And
here's the thing: is Chris Olave, Drake London, and Traylon Burks could win you a league. Tyler Boyd is never going to do that.
No.
Even if T. Higgins or Jamar Chase gets hurt and Tyler Boyd is the wide receiver 2, he's probably not winning you a league. They could both get hurt and he's not winning you a league. He is not that type of receiver. I don't think he has it in his range of outcomes. He's not that gifted of a player.
And here's another one. I mean, there's guys, Christian Moore, Sky Moore. People are going to say Sky Moore over Tyler Boyd.
I'll take Tyler Boyd.
I'm not going to go there yet. Obviously, Chark, no. But like, you go down the rest of these names, and there's nobody here. Maybe Jameson Williams. I think the pure talent's going to win out there.
Jameson Williams could win you a league too. It's just you need to draft him as like your wide receiver 6 or 7, so you can stash him on your bench until he's actually playing football.
But here's my thing. Here are two other names that people need to think about. Van Jefferson or Tyler Boyd, and then KJ Osborne, who we'll get to later, over Tyler Boyd. KJ Osborne is going as wide receiver 74. That's 20, what is that? 20 spots. 21 spots after Tyler Boyd. So if I'm looking at Tyler Boyd on the board, why am I going receiver there when I'll just go, 21 more spots and take KJ Osborne? Like, to me, that's not even close, really.
It's close for me. I think Tyler Boyd's going to have a safer target floor. I think you're going to get more usable weeks out of Tyler Boyd than you might somebody like KJ Osborne. The thing is, KJ Osborne is a spike week guy. So you need to decide when you're choosing between these two, am I looking for just a guy who's going to give me usable weeks? He's probably going to get me 8 to 10 to 12, maybe some games with 15 points relatively consistently. Or am I looking for a guy who, if I'm a 10-point underdog in a redraft league on a certain week, can I throw him in there and pray for 25 points out of nowhere?
Listen, Listen,
that's KJ Osborne.
I don't know, man. I love how you're talking like me now, talking about the week-to-week consistency thing. But look, from week 13, look at his week 13. I mean, week 13, 4 receptions, 7 targets, 47 yards, and a touchdown. Week 14, Pittsburgh, three receptions, 9 targets, 83 yards, and a touchdown. Followed it up with a dud against Chicago. But then between the Rams, Packers, and Bears after that, he had 3 straight weeks with at least 4 targets and a touchdown in every game. And a lot of those were like deep shots. And, Adam Thielen was a little, hit or miss last year as well. I think there might be a little more consistency to KJ Osborne this year than you might be trying to lead on. But again,
do you think that KJ Osborne could flat out take Adam Thielen's job?
Oh, 100%. I do.
Okay.
Look, Adam, and I'm an Adam Thielen guy. I was saying for years, Adam Thielen was the best receiver on the Vikings. He was outplaying Stephon Diggs every single year they were together.
He was not better than Stephon Diggs.
Maybe not now, but back then I believe he was. And
I don't think he was.
And the numbers back that up. But that's a different discussion. But yes, I especially now, I think he could, and I honestly think that he probably will by season's end. And we're looking going into 2023. We're looking at KJ Osborne as a legitimate wide receiver to a beta receiver to Justin Jefferson's.
Well, I kind of like this. So we started out talking about Jamar Chase and T Higgins. Are you hypothesizing that, like, maybe not even hypothesizing, but are you saying that there is a universe out there where in 2023 we're talking about Justin Jefferson and KJ Osborne similarly to how we're talking about Chase and Higgins? Maybe not to that extent. I don't know if KJ Osborne has T Higgins upside, but close. Like maybe
there's got to be a better metaphor. There's got to be a better metaphor out there, right? Like
there is. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle probably isn't the best either, because I think Jalen Waddle has an insanely high ceiling, and we know what Tyreek Hill's ceiling is.
Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, BMW.
Mike Williams.
I think
like
that's
that one.
I think that's a decent one. I think there's a like a DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett sort of thing that could go on there. So I think that would probably be a better metaphor for me. But look, it depends on who the quarterback is next year. Look, if Kirk Cousins, he's going to be in a pass happy offense with Kevin O'Connell running the show. So if Kirk Cousins doesn't get the job done this year, I think he's going to be very good this year. But playoff wise, like real life football wise, if he doesn't really get the job done next year, and I was saying it this year that the Vikings were a dark horse to take a quarterback, but next year is really going to be the year to take a quarterback because it's one more year off Kirk Cousins' contract. So I'm just saying it's going to depend. The future is really going to depend on who they have at quarterback and if it's somebody better than Justin Fields. But look, okay, we kind of got off the beaten path here with those guys. But Waddle, Hill, Kupp, Robinson, and then Mark Andrews and Rashad Bateman was the next one. I don't know what I think this one will be pretty quick. Andrews and Bateman, I can't. It's Mark Andrews. Like I like Rashad Bateman's. I like his talent. He was one of my favorite receivers coming out of that draft. But as soon as he landed in Baltimore, I'm like, nope, I'm out on him unless Lamar Jackson it gets replaced or something. I'm out on Rashad Bateman completely. And I don't know if you saw Bernard Pollard, former Raven great Bernard Pollard's comment on social media about a day or two ago on Twitter, talking about no receivers want to go there. They've had plenty of chances to get these big guys in free agency. Nobody wants to play with Lamar, and you can't really blame them. You know what I mean? So like, I just for fantasy wise, I just can't. There's guys around Bateman that I would trust more. I would trust in their volume more and their quarterback more than Bateman. So if I'm taking Andrews or Bateman, give me Mark Andrews at tight end over Bateman all day long.
Yeah, I don't think that's crazy. Obviously, Mark Andrews goes in the second round. Bateman goes in the fifth, sometimes in the sixth round. Obviously,
that's too early to me.
It's for Bateman.
Yeah,
I get it. I don't take him that much because I can get DK Metcalf there a little earlier, and I don't give a damn who DK Metcalf's quarterback is.
No,
he is who he is. He's going to command targets. People keep talking to me on DK Metcalf about how it's going to be a run-first offense, and they're going to be one of the worst teams in the league. You got to pick one. They can't be both. They're not going to run the football 55% of the time and also lose 14 games. That's not happening. That can't happen. It's not happening. So either this team is going to win more games and score more points than we're expecting them to, or they're going to throw more than we're going to expect them to. And I think DK Metcalf is a beneficiary either way. He's an alpha. I just don't see a way he doesn't command at least 125 and 130 targets. I don't care who the quarterback is. I don't care. I will take a shot at DK Metcalf's talent and upside in the fifth round, literally anytime I can. But so I can't take Bateman over Metcalf. And I know I can get Elijah Moore in the sixth. And I feel like him and Bateman have the same ceiling, but Elijah Moore is going to have a safer floor.
Oh, see, I think Elijah Moore has a much higher ceiling than Rashad Bateman. I mean, Bateman's going as wide receiver 37, and Elijah's going as wide receiver 32. So here are guys around Bateman: Amon-Ra St. Brown, Gabriel Davis, Cortland Sutton, Elijah Moore.
Wait, where in the hell are you seeing Cortland Sutton going outside of wide receiver 30?
Man, you gotta get on Fantasy Data's ADPs, brother.
Screw Fantasy Data's ADP. Go and draft on Underdog.
No, you don't use best ball
Like
ADPs
hell you don't.
for
I
traditional
don't care.
season long.
I do not care where casuals are drafting Cortland Sutton. I care where sharp players on Underdog are drafting Cortland
But
Sutton.
they're drafting
Cortland Sutton is a 3rd round pick right now on Underdog.
It's a different type of game than traditional season long. You're going after different things in best ball than you are in traditional season long.
You're really not. You're just trying to score fantasy points at the end of the day.
No, there's different strategies involved.
There are different strategies involved. I'm not going to say there isn't, but ADPs between best ball and a redraft league,
they're
a managed
similar.
redraft league, they're going to be really similar. There
similar.
is no reason there should be that big of a discrepancy on Cortland Sutton. He should not be going outside wide receiver 30 in a redraft league while he's going in the 3rd round on Underdog.
Well,
that's bad. He's a 3rd round pick right now.
Look, he's going as wide receiver 33. Jerry Jeudy's going as wide receiver 30. So it's like they're right there, and I think it's Judy's going 70.
Judy shouldn't be going before Sutton either. That's bad.
Well, I mean, I either whichever one you want. I kind of agree, but I like them both. Look, Judy's going as the 71st pick in the draft, and Cortland Sutton is the 77th pick in the draft. So like, I mean, they're right near each other. But when I am drafting in a redraft league, I'm gonna prefer fantasy data that's taking their ADPs from multiple websites as opposed to
and I'm going to prefer Underdog because I think the players on Underdog, the ADP on Underdog is the most efficient ADP we're going to find. So that's going to give me a better idea of what kind of values I'm getting. So if I'm sitting in the 4th round of a redraft league and I see that a guy that I know goes in the late 2nd or 3rd round on Underdog, that's a value to me. That's a steal to me. Like, for example, if I see Cortland Sutton there in the 5th or 6th round of a redraft league, knowing that with sharp players on Underdog, knowing that he goes in the 3rd round on Underdog, I'm taking him. I'm hammering him because that's a crazy value.
Well, what is he? What did I say he's going at 77 right now?
77. I mean, that's in a 12-person league. What is that? Mid 6th round, roughly.
I don't math very well.
77
divided by 12.
Somewhere in the mid. It's somewhere in the like late 5th, early 6th, maybe the mid 6th. I'm not doing that math.
Alexa, 77 divided by 12. What?
I don't know.
Oh yeah, 6th round. 6th round.
Okay. So yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Screw that, dude. I would no.
I mean, I'm using
Underdog's ADP all day.
I mean, it is what it is. But okay, so we pretty much agree Andrews over Bateman. But I think where things get interesting, Waddle versus Hill. And here's the thing. Here's the thing. People are gonna say, and I feel like the casuals. I feel like most casuals are gonna be like Tyreek Hill because they're good. It's gonna be like the name. It's the name value that's really gonna give the jolt with them and give Tyreek Hill. But I'm telling you right now, we have seen the best Tyreek Hill. We've seen his peak. He ain't getting any better with Tua Tagovailoa at quarterback. He's not going to get any better with Tua at quarterback in an actual wide receiver 2. He didn't have that. Demarcus Robinson is not an actual wide receiver 2. Mecole Hardman is not an actual. Jalen Waddle is an actual wide receiver 2, maybe even their wide receiver 1. I'm taking Jalen Waddle. If I have to choose between the two, I'm taking Jalen Waddle 15 times out of 10. And I don't think it's a discussion to be had. Jalen Waddle's going as wide receiver 16. Tyreek Hill is going as wide receiver 8, ahead of Keenan Allen.
Tyreek Hill should go ahead of Keenan Allen, in my opinion, but
okay,
that's a whole other discussion.
End this show right now. We're gonna end
a whole other discussion. Dude, Keenan Allen's regressed in like each of the last 3 seasons. I'll take Tyreek Hill every time. I get why you take Keenan Allen because he's got the quarterback upside with Justin Herbert, so like I think it's fine. But I will take Tyreek Hill there. I think just about every time. But as far as Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, I'm with you. I'm with you. Like I am overexposed to Tyreek Hill in the 2nd round right now. I've got significantly more than I do Jalen Waddle, and I think that's bad. I need to up my Waddle exposure in the third round significantly, because I think once more camp videos of Jalen Waddle catching bombs and just looking like an absolute crusher start coming out, he's going to be a second round pick. He could jump T. Higgins in ADP. I think he could even jump AJ Brown in ADP. And I want to get more Jalen Waddle while he is still a third round pick.
Yeah, and the thing for me with Waddle is, look, you know that he was my favorite receiver in that class coming out. And I just fell in love with Jalen Waddle. And a lot of people forgot about just because he was hurt. So there was like, oh, can he stay healthy? Oh, he's not going to be the same. He's not going to be as fast. And it turns out he's the closest thing to the guy that he's playing with now in Tyreek Hill since Tyreek Hill. Now, I think Wan'Dale Robinson's a little closer, but that's neither here nor there. But you've got two Tyreek Hills essentially on the same team. Their measurables are pretty much identical. The play style's pretty much identical. Jalen Waddle, it would not surprise me if Jalen Waddle's actually faster than Tyreek Hill. But that's beside the point. Jalen Waddle, to me, is a guy that I don't think enough people are paying attention to, because I feel like Tua Tagovailoa still has this Tua sucks sort of thing going on, where everybody just assumed that he's going to be absolutely terrible. And I don't know what people were watching of Tua to say, oh, he's a bad quarterback. He was actually pretty darn good.
Tua's
He's actually
really
been pretty solid.
passer.
Now look,
He's a very accurate passer.
exactly, and very accurate, typically downfield. I don't think either one of us agree that Tua Tagovailoa is going to be some fantasy dynamo. He's never going to be Pat Mahomes. He's never going to be Justin Herbert or even Joe Burrow. He's probably going to be along the. I think from a fantasy perspective, Mark, I think that Tua's ceiling here is Kirk Cousins in fantasy. That's his ceiling.
You took the word right out of my mouth. I was going to say Kirk Cousins is.
He's
like
not Dak Prescott,
ceiling.
not Matthew Stafford, not Rodgers, Brady, Herbert, Allen, Mahomes. Not going to be Jalen Hurts, obviously. Not going to be Kyler Murray. I mean, I think we're looking at like a Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins type of thing with Tua, and that's fine. That's fine, because that's going to get you fantasy points, and that's going to be a more than serviceable QB2 in like Superflex. And even and you could be your QB1 in a 1 QB league if you're still playing in 1 QB leagues, in the Stone Age. But that's your prerogative. But I don't know why people think that Tua is like Drew Lock out here. They're not even comparable. So I don't understand why people
he's more like
harping.
Baker Mayfield, to be honest.
Well, he's better than Baker Mayfield.
I think he's better than Baker too, but it's not by that much.
Yeah, I think it is by that much. But okay, we'll save.
Okay, let's get back to receivers for a second. I saw a tweet the other day. I don't remember who put it out, but somebody said that Jameson Williams and Jalen Waddle were the same player. Now, I'm not a film guy, but I can tell you a lot of their metrics look kind of similar. Talk to me about that.
Who was that again?
I don't remember who tweeted it, but I saw it.
No. I mean like the
Jameson Williams and Jalen Waddle. Somebody tweeted out that they were like the same player. And I mean, I can tell you right now, their metrics and everything are somewhat similar. What are they like as far as like player archetypes? Because I couldn't tell you.
Well, they're different. Jameson Williams is not. His play style is not the same. He wasn't used at Alabama the exact same way that Jalen Waddle was, and he's not going to be used by the Lions the same exact way that the Dolphins use or used Jalen Waddle. Now, they may be used in similar ways in the pros now that Tyreek Hill is in Miami, because they may use Tyreek Hill the way Tyreek was used in KC, and why use two guys the exact same way? So we don't know how that's going to shape out. But I can tell you, as of this moment today, they're not. When you're talking about NFL clone, people like to talk about find their NFL clones and they are not. He's not an NFL clone. Jameson Williams is like 2 or 3 inches taller. He's a little bit heavier than he's several pounds heavier than Jalen Waddle as well, and he just wasn't used the exact same way that Jalen Waddle was used. He's taller. Like I said, he's longer. He's a much longer player. So they don't remind me of each other. So I don't really understand what that was all about. But look, that's what fantasy Twitter does. And that's why I hate fantasy Twitter. People draft season, more than any other season, but draft season is like peak fantasy Twitter, where you open Twitter up on your phone and the first thing you see is this guy is this guy. This guy is the new this guy. And it's like, what? Jamison Williams is the new Tyreek Hill. They don't profile the same at all. They're just both fast. What? There's not, and it drives me insane. You'll see people on fantasy Twitter, and they will, and they could be not what people call knowledgeable on fantasy Twitter. 3,000 plus followers, and people are saying the guys are saying this 6'1", 210-pound running back is the next running back who's 5'9", 190, and it's like their measurables don't even match up.
I got a good one. People are calling Breece Hall the next Jonathan Taylor, and I am all in on Breece Hall, but he's 15 pounds lighter than Jonathan Taylor. I don't think he has Jonathan Taylor's upside. Taylor ran a 4.39 at 230 pounds. Do you know how scary a 230-pound man running at you at that speed is?
With that athleticism.
It's pretty different. Yeah, it's pretty different than a 215-pound man running at you. I mean, 15 pounds actually makes more of a difference than you might think, especially when these guys are as lean as they are. 15 pounds is pretty significant.
Yeah, I think he is more, and ironically enough, this was my NFL clone for Breece Hall. It's Rashad Penny to me. Now, I think Breece is probably going to be a little more successful in the NFL than Breece Hall, but when you put on the film and look at the measurables and stuff, I just feel like they're very similar. That's exactly who I see when I put on Breece Hall.
I like that.
But
I like that because I think Rashad Penny, when he's not hurt, is like a really, really good football player.
Yeah, I don't, but okay. It's fun because before we came on here, I saw in the fantasy lounge, patreon.com/RotoBros, by the way, if you want to jump in there. I saw in the fantasy lounge, people were talking about there is in no world should Kenneth Walker be drafted ahead of Rashad Penny outside of Dynasty. And I'm like, wait, what?
That's not true.
I don't think that's true. I'll take Kenneth Walker, who's younger, better football player coming out, and I think he's probably more skilled as of today. And he's getting taken way later than Rashad Penny. I'll take that over Rashad Penny every time.
Rashad Penny goes, for what it's worth, Rashad Penny goes later on Underdog because Kenneth Walker should go first. Kenneth Walker should go first, but like they should be close. I personally think they should be close. They on Underdog, I think Kenneth Walker, you can usually get him in the 9th round. Sometimes he goes in the 8th, and then Rashad Penny goes like a round later. And I think that's efficient. Because I don't see a world where Kenneth Walker comes in week 1 and just completely takes over the backfield.
No.
After how Rashad Penny played. With Breece Hall, that could happen. Do I think it's going to happen? Probably not, but it could.
Here's the difference. Happen. Here's the difference between the two. And I've been having this argument with people. I was on I can't even remember. It was God, I can't remember the show. I was a guest on a show a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago, and we were having this discussion with somebody. Breece Hall versus Kenneth Walker. Look, the difference between the two, Kenneth Walker is going to be the primary pass catcher on his team. Breece Hall's not. And if you think that Michael Carter is just going to disappear like a fart in the wind, I got news for you. You're going to be very, very disappointed.
Whoa. How do you know that? The dude caught like 8 passes in college.
I mean, I'm just telling you. Michael Carter, who are you talking about?
Kenneth Walker.
Well, that's what the reports out of Seattle, that's what they're installing him as. That's what the early reports are saying, that Kenneth Walker is going to be, at least right now, they are using him as the primary pass catcher on.
Well, they're probably giving him a test run just to see if he can do it. He didn't do it in college, and I don't care if Michigan State just doesn't throw to running backs or whatever excuse there is. It didn't happen. So
that doesn't mean it can't happen.
You're right. Absolutely, it doesn't mean that it can't happen. I'm just saying that it didn't. Whereas Breece Hall, at 18 years old, was catching 20, 30 passes a season because he was a bell cow. He could come into the NFL and be an infinitely better pass catcher than Michael Carter, and it wouldn't surprise anybody because he's got an established resume that says he can do it. So, I disagree with you here, Brees Hall could be the backfield's primary passing down back as soon as week 1.
I'm not saying
Michael
he
Carter
couldn't.
can do it, but Brees Hall is better at it.
I'm not saying he couldn't, but I'm not even going to say he's better than Michael Carter at that.
Well,
but
Brees Hall was better at it in college than Michael Carter was.
Well, Michael Carter's done it in the NFL already, so we'll see. But
Yeah, he wasn't
just
very
think
efficient. He wasn't even more efficient than Ty Johnson last year as a pass catcher.
He did play on the Jets.
So did Ty Johnson, and Ty Johnson was a more efficient pass catcher doing the same thing.
So Ty Johnson's better than Michael Carter. There we go.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that maybe Michael Carter isn't that good of a pass catcher. Like, he can do it. He's capable of doing it, but he's not that good at doing it, and he's nowhere near good enough at doing it to hold off a guy like Brees Hall.
All right, look, the last one we got here was Kupp and Robinson. Okay, this is what it's all going to come down to. Allen Robinson could outscore and become that number one receiver for the Rams. He could. Do I think it's going to happen ultimately? No.
You should be drafting Allen Robinson with the mindset that he has the upside to out-target Cooper Kupp.
Yes.
Cooper Kupp is a freaking baller, but Allen Robinson has done nothing but command 150-plus targets every year he's been healthy. And he's done it with multiple teams, multiple quarterbacks, multiple coaches. It's just who he is. He commands targets. So he's probably going to do it with Matthew Stafford.
I agree, but the problem with Allen Robinson is not even Allen Robinson. It's Odell Beckham Jr. If Odell or even Julio or somebody else gets, and it sounds like they're wanting to add another body there. So if they acquire another receiver, and let's just say that they re-sign Odell at some point, Odell's going to come back, and that's not going to be good for Allen Robinson. So I think Kupp is still the guy to own. I don't think there's any discussion about that right now. But if you're telling me that they're not going to add a single quality body, I'm not saying they're going to go out and add, some guy who's, cut right now, but somebody like a on Marquez Valdez-Scantling's level, you know what I mean? But what I am saying is if they go out and they get Odell Beckham, who showed he still does have plenty of gas in the tank last year, if they go out and they get a guy like Odell or bring back Odell, that's not good for Allen Robinson. And that is where I will then agree with our friend Derek Brown that Russell Gage could and probably will on the season outscore Allen Robinson. But that's a different discussion altogether. But that I think is it's risky with Allen Robinson right now. That's all I'm saying. It's risky.
Sure, I won't disagree with you, and that's okay. That's the important thing is neither of us are saying that we think this is going to happen. I'm just saying take into account that this could happen. The probability of it is not 0 and it's not even 5%. It's probably closer to like 15, 20, 25%. And yeah, those probabilities are low, but that it still happens 25 times out of 100 or 2.5 times out of 10. This probability can happen. And that is how I win money in fantasy football, though, is taking into account the outcomes that other people aren't thinking about. You can win money in the long run by taking into account that Allen Robinson is capable of outscoring a guy like Cooper Kupp. This is where we go back to drafting as if you are right. It is a first place or last place mentality. If you fade Cooper Kupp to take Christian McCaffrey, or you pass on Cooper Kupp to take Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase, you should then be targeting Allen Robinson in the 4th round. Because if Cooper Kupp does not hit his value in the first round, he doesn't see 160, 170 targets, you can hypothesize it is more likely that Allen Robinson paid off at his 4th round price tag. He only needs like 125 or 130 targets to really pay off there. And if he sees like 140 or 150 because he's just flat out outplaying Cooper Kupp, he's a league winner.
Yeah, I'm just it's risky. It's risky for
it is risky, but it's not about thinking it's going to happen. It's about being prepared if it does.
Yeah, but it also depends on, especially you're talking best ball, maybe that's different. But the majority,
I'm talking all formats. Go and buy them in Dynasty with this mentality. I don't care.
Well, the little bit of the other thing you have to think about in traditional season long is which receiver is he going to be on your team? Are you drafting him in the 4th, 5th round as your wide receiver 1? That to me, That's a problem. That's
I'd
too
rather
risky.
have him as my 2 or 3. I agree with you. I'd
Yes,
rather, yeah,
100%.
yeah. This is a structural thing at that point. I agree with you. I'd rather have him
Now,
as my 2 or 3.
if you promised me that Odell was going to be off the market and Julio was going to sign and all that kind of stuff, and it was just going to be cut and it was going to be,
Dude, are we sure? Are we sure Odell is even going to play football this year? He tore his ACL in February.
Well, he's going to. I think he's going to. But it's not going to be week 1. But
I want to ask my athletic trainer girlfriend if Odell Beckham's going to play football this year. He tore his ACL in the Super Bowl, and like this is a dude who has not been good at playing hurt before. He's come back from injuries slow before. How about to be continued on Odell Beckham, because I think this is interesting.
Yeah, we'll revisit this at some point during the season, when and if he signs anywhere, regardless of where he signs.
All right, we'll bring athletic trainer Anna onto the podcast, and she'll tell us about Odell Beckham Jr.'s torn ACL. How about that?
Yeah, I like that. There we go. Hey, so we talked about some of these receivers, and some of these guys may be, on our all 22 teams. And look, we're a month away from, just a couple weeks away from training camp, actually. About a month away from preseason football. So your all 20, I want you to give me your all 22 team. And I'm not saying guys that you think are going to be like, oh, he's going to be a QB1. I'm talking about not like you can't give me Justin Herbert or Joe Burrow. You can't give me, Jonathan Taylor. You can't give me Justin Jefferson. I'm talking about guys that.
Okay, so I have Kyler Murray written down as my quarterback, so I can't give you him.
He's gonna be a QB1.
I agree. Okay, so when you proposed this question to me, I thought it was just like in a vacuum, but that's fine, because I think everybody knows who my quarterback is that I'm 100% all in on. Everyone knows. It was already talked about on mine and Ying's Best Ball podcast. I think it was hinted at last week with you. Anybody in the Discord who's seen my Best Ball exposures know the quarterback I'm all in on. Chris, do you know the quarterback I'm all in on? You got to know.
I'm gonna know when you tell me.
It's Justin Fields.
Oh, that's right. Dear God Almighty.
It's Justin Fields, dude. He's gonna run for like 600 or 700 rushing yards. He's probably gonna run for 5 or 6 touchdowns, and I can get him in the 11th round. I don't give a damn what he does as a passer at that point. Jalen Hurts threw 16 touchdown passes last year, and for like 3,300 yards. He had an objectively bad season as a passer and finished as what? The QB6? He finished as high as QB3, depending on your scoring format. Justin Fields could do that. He could easily do that. He's got it in his range of outcomes, and he's got it reasonably in his range of outcomes. The Bears could be the worst team in the league, and Justin Fields could still finish as a low-end QB1 solely because of rushing.
I understand the logic, and the ceiling
He goes too late. He goes too late. That's all I'm saying. I don't give a damn what anybody says about Fields as a quarterback.
Right now he's going as QB 17. He's going right behind Kirk Cousins at QB 15, Deshaun Watson at QB 16, right ahead of Tua, Matt Ryan, Mitch Trubisky, Baker Mayfield, Trevor Lawrence. Here's the thing. And this is just how I operate. And this is a fundamental difference between you and I. You're going to look at Justin Fields as QB 17, and you're going to say he's going too late, and you're going to see the ceiling, and it's there. But my question is, the question you're not going to ask, but I'm going to ask.
I'll still probably ask the question, just so we're clear.
Is, what are the odds that he reaches that potential QB1 ceiling over a guy going much later? You want to know? I'm going to give you a name as going as QB 24 that I will take, and QB 26 that I would take.
Mac Jones, I'm going to lose my mind
over Justin Fields now. Jameis Winston,
I don't hate that,
and Zach Wilson.
I think those are fine.
Yeah, and
personally, I thought you were going to say Trevor Lawrence, which I also would have been fine with.
Yes, that would have been the third. I'll probably go. I'll take the better talent, and I'll give that the benefit of the doubt on a more consistent weekly basis. I love my consistency from week to week, so I'll take Trevor Lawrence there.
I don't know if you're going to get consistency out of either Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence or Jameis Winston or Zach Wilson. I don't think any of these guys are going to give you week to week consistency.
I think Winston
It's got to be an ideology thing with your quarterback too in Superflex leagues. You can choose. You can either look for a massive ceiling and you can play first or last, which is what I like to do. But I also don't think it's bad process to get a QB2 with a safe floor. Like if you're drafting Kirk Cousins as your QB2 in a Superflex league, that's fine. And on Underdog, Kirk Cousins goes like one or two rounds later than Justin Fields. So if you're taking Kirk Cousins as your QB2 and passing on Justin Fields, like I think that's fine. It's a mentality thing for me. I am playing for first place. First or last. I don't care about second place. If I come in second place, I lost. I wasted my damn time. All I did all year was grind waivers and set my lineup just to break even. Hell no, that's a net loss. I'm playing to win. First or last, give me Justin Fields ceiling.
See, I'm playing to get to the dance, and then I'm playing for that second season. That's
playing to win the dance. So I get it. That's fine. I don't think you're wrong in that regard. It's just I'm playing to win the whole damn thing. I'm playing to dominate.
All right, that's more airtime than Justin Fields deserves. What's the rest of your team?
Oh, don't say that. I don't like that. I don't like that. Justin Fields, we could dedicate an entire show to Justin Fields. We could dedicate an entire show to you and I. We could dedicate an entire show just to you and I yelling at each other about how it's ridiculous that Trey Lance goes in like the 6th or 7th round on Underdog while Justin Fields goes in the 11th.
We could dedicate a whole show to Trey Lance right now. MVP candidate Trey Lance for 2022.
Okay, dude. If Trey Lance is an MVP candidate, but Justin Fields isn't even worth talking about for 5 minutes, you and I have a problem.
Look, Trey Lance, I'm telling you, man, Trey Lance he's gonna break fantasy football this year. He's gonna break fantasy football. Trey Lance he's going alpha mode. If
Trey Lance went where Justin Fields went, I would have 50% Trey Lance. But you really, really have to pay for his upside, whereas you don't have to pay for Justin Fields' upside. That's why I have as much Fields as I do, and that's why I don't really draft Trey Lance at cost, because I can get Jalen Hurts there, or a round earlier I can get Kyler Murray. 2 rounds earlier I can get Lamar Jackson, and I will take Trey Lance over Joe Burrow 100% of the time. I will take Trey Lance's rushing upside over Joe Burrow. Dead air.
That's a really good discussion there.
I think that's a fun one. We could have that one on a later pod.
That's a good one. I mean, look, Trey Lance with that rushing, Burrow's got rushing upside too, but Trey Lance has got another level of rushing upside. But he's not a rushing quarterback. Make no mistake about it. Trey Lance is not.
He might be in the NFL.
He is not. I don't think
he might be in the NFL.
I don't think
he's
going to account
for that outcome. Listen, a very wise man once told me, if you're a quarterback and you run, I'm interested.
I agree.
I don't care how bad of a passer you are. I don't give a damn. If you run, I will draft you.
I agree.
And that's kind of where I'm at with Trey Lance.
He's a good passer. He's not. This guy isn't Jalen Hurts.
He was reasonably efficient in college, but it was against really bad competition. And he only did it for 1 year. So I don't know what Trey Lance is as a passer.
Well, he did it to
see him do it more in the NFL.
He did it for 1.5 years. I mean, COVID kind of messed some stuff up, but he was.
Yeah, but wasn't that half year like not good?
No, the half year was really good.
Was the half year really good? I don't remember. I remember looking at Trey Lance's numbers, seeing what was it? He had the one season where he threw 28 touchdowns and 0 picks, right? That was Trey Lance.
Something like that. Maybe 1 pick or something, or it may have been.
It was
0.
something stupid, like Aaron Rodgers stupid, like 28. I think it was 28 touchdowns or 27 touchdowns and no picks.
Yeah, it was something. But I think he's going to be fine. Trey Lance is that's the quarterback, the number one quarter. And look, he's going his QB 13 right now, so he's going, right there at the very beginning of the QB2s, very into the QB1s. But that ceiling is ultra high, and I think his ceiling, the odds that he hits that ceiling is a lot higher than Justin Fields.
I would agree.
Hitting a similar ceiling, and that's why I love Trey Lance. But here's the thing. Trey Lance is going to be my QB1 in leagues, because that I'm going running back heavy early on, and then I'll get Trey Lance as my first quarterback. But so
I like drafting Trey Lance. Okay, I shouldn't say I like drafting Trey Lance, but I like the thesis behind drafting a guy like Trey Lance because you don't have to stack him. I wouldn't feel obligated to stack him. Like I could take him naked and feel just fine,
Oh
just like
yeah,
I do with
yeah.
Justin Fields. I think the thesis for both of these guys is the same. It's just what you're saying about probabilities of hitting that ceiling is 100% correct. Look at what Trey Lance has around him. He's got a better offensive line. He's got, as far
Better
as we
coach.
know, better coaching. We the jury's out on this new Bears regime. It could be good. Everyone's expecting it to suck. It could be good. We don't know. I think it's just fine. We can place bets on this regime being good. I don't think it is like out of the realm of possibilities that Luke Getsy ends up being a good offensive coordinator and Matt Eberflus is a good head coach. Like that's not out of the realm of possibilities. That could happen, and that could change the entire trajectory of this Bears season. If everyone's projecting them to be one of the worst teams in the league, just like everyone was expecting the Eagles to be one of the worst teams in the league, they did make the playoffs. The Eagles were projected, everyone and is including everyone in the fantasy space. I kept hearing on podcast after podcast after podcast that the Eagles are going to be one of the worst teams in the league last year, and they made the playoffs because it was a new coaching staff. We were projecting the unprojectable. So account for these outcomes that we cannot predict. There's just going to be too much variance in Justin Fields' season to suggest he's going to be definitively bad. And that's why I take him in the 11th round, because he could end up being a massive value.
Yeah,
Now, where I'm going with this, the probability is higher that Trey Lance finishes as a QB1 because he's got Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel. He's got definitively good coaching. Yeah, he's got everything working for him, whereas there's a lot more ambiguity with Justin Fields. But that's the ADP difference. Like you said, they're going a lot closer on fantasy data. On Underdog, obviously, it's going to be different. We already had that discussion. But Trey Lance goes literally in the 7th round on Underdog. Fields goes 4 or 5 rounds later. So on that platform, I will pass on Trey Lance almost every time and just risk it with Justin Fields.
Okay, so that's your quarterback. But let's get to the rest of your team here. Running backs, receivers, tight end, and I want you to give me a super flex.
All right, I'll give you 2 running backs, and I'm going to throw them right at you because realistically, like if you run pretty good in a draft, you can take these guys back to back at the 4 or 5 turn. And if you went like a draft I have deployed where I go wide receiver, Kyle Pitts, and I need to start taking running backs that have like through the moon upside, but not safe floors. I need upside. 4 or 5 turn, you could potentially get these 2 guys, Travis Etienne, obviously. Breece Hall. React.
I'm not gonna jump on there.
It's not safe enough for you. I get it.
No, well, Breece Hall is not, especially not as my RB2. Travis Etienne, I love. I love Travis Etienne. I don't know about as my RB1, but I want Travis Etienne as no.
Well, okay, so what if your wide receivers are like Justin Jefferson and Mike Evans, and then you have Kyle Pitts?
Well, they're not gonna be.
Like, I'm just saying, like, if you are that stacked at wide receiver, you have the highest upside tight end, you have all of this upside and scoring potential. Could you then get more comfortable with having less stability at running back, knowing that there's going to be some 26 or 27-year-old running back that comes out of the woodwork and dominates for 8 games that you got off the waiver wire? That's going to happen. It happens every year. You just got to hit on that guy.
If my mindset was like yours and I'm going receiver heavy to start a draft, then sure. But it's not. I go running back heavy, and I went 3 straight running backs last year, and it resulted very well, and I'm planning to do the same thing this year, depending on where I'm sitting.
I guess what I'm like,
I agree with Travis. He's not a name that's on my all 22 team, but he just barely missed the cut here. Now I'm going to put a name who was obviously a top flight RB1 before he got hurt, DeAndre Swift. Now the reason I'm putting him on here, because typically I wouldn't had he stayed healthy all year, he would have finished as a top 5 running back. But the reason I'm putting him on here now is because number one, he didn't finish as top 5 running back, and I believe. Right now, I've done multiple wide receiver rankings so far this offseason, and every single time DeAndre Swift ends as RB3 for me. I think this Lions team is going to be so damn competitive, and I think DeAndre Swift's going to be a big part of it. But that offensive line, the defense, the improvement with the weapons, the coaching that has really already proved itself in a way. I think this is going to be a really, really competitive football team.
Are you talking yourself into Jared Goff as your super flex or QB3 right now?
Oh God, no. Let's
I'll do it.
Let's pump those, bro. Okay,
I'll
well,
do it.
I mean, that's not. I'm not doing that. I'm not that.
I'll take him as
risky.
a QB3. I don't think I want him as my every week super flex, but I have already taken Jared Goff as a QB3, and I'll do it again.
You mentioned a rookie running back in Breece Hall, but I'll one up you 3 times over, and I think these guys could be just as good, if not better, than Breece Hall in year 1. And I think that's Tyler Algier, Rachaad White, and this is all like one running back spot here. I'm just stating these are 3 rookie running backs going in the second round that you need to pay attention to, and even Isaiah Spiller, because I do believe that Isaiah Spiller's better than Justin Jackson's not even on the roster anymore. Joshua Kelly's terrible. Isaiah Spiller's the second best running back on that team, even ahead of Larry Roundtree.
Isaiah Spiller could literally have like a LeGarrette Blount season and
score
like 16 touchdowns.
100%. And look, I like Austin Eckler, but I ain't taking Austin Eckler in the first round like I was last year.
No, absolutely not. He's one of the worst first-round picks I've seen in years, just based on what he has told us. He's come out on like podcasts and said, I do not want this much work. Stop giving me this much work.
And he's a fantasy guy.
Yeah.
He plays fantasy like MJD. Like, that's something you might want to listen to.
But
you know what I mean?
Guy's body's beat up. It's beat up. And Austin Eckler has he's a physical freak, but a guy knows when he's getting beaten up. And he knows how he likes to play, and he doesn't want to be a bell cow. I think he wants to be he likes being a gadget player or the second, he likes being the 1B. I don't think he necessarily wants to be the 1A.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that Isaiah Spiller is going to be a 1A, but I'm with you on Spiller.
Austin will still be the 1A. He's still going to be the primary pass catcher by a long shot. But you mentioned LeGarrette Blount. Isaiah Spiller could end the season as the primary red zone short yardage running back there. And you got to remember, Isaiah Spiller is not LeGarrette Blount. He's not like a LeGarrette Blount clone. He's a better all-around running back than LeGarrette Blount. So he's not.
He's going to offer you the same things that LeGarrette Blount offered.
On short yardage and red zone, yes, and maybe even early downs. But he's a better all-around running back, and he can handle, I think, even more of a workload than LeGarrette Blount. Even like a Cedric Benson of yesteryear, but obviously better talent than Cedric Benson. But I'm telling you, Isaiah Spiller is going to be better. And I posted this on Twitter a couple weeks after the draft, and I said something along the lines of, don't be surprised if Isaiah Spiller's rookie season isn't that far off of Breece Hall's. And I believe, personally, 5 years down the road, Isaiah Spiller is going to be a better running back than Breece Hall, and I will stand by that. Spiller was my number 1 rated running back in this class, and I'm not backing off that. He's on a better team, on a better offense, with better talent. I think he's set up for the future, for the long haul. And look, Tyler Algier and Rachaad White, I think. Rachaad White, I think, probably has the highest.
I love Rachaad White.
Yeah, his spot. You want to talk about a great spot. Now, I get Fournette still there and all that. And
Fournette's old.
So he is.
Running back Fournette's old.
And he's been nicked up a few times. Now, look, Fournette's going to enter the season. It's going to be like 80-20 at worst. Fournette's. Probably. But we're talking by fantasy playoff time, don't be surprised if Rachaad White has had to start 3 or 4 games of the year, and he's looked really good in those games, and all of a sudden it's like 60-40, 50-50 going into fantasy playoffs. Tyler Algier could be the RB1 from day one, and I think he will be. So, look, I think those are 3 guys from a rookie standpoint that you really got to look at. They're all over the place, though. These rookie running backs, bro, Brian Robinson's another one. And we could do a whole show on why you need to sell Antonio Gibson, but that's neither here nor there.
We talked a lot about that last week. So you did mention DeAndre Swift as one of your guys you're all in on at running back. I really, really wanted to put DeAndre Swift on my list. I ended up going with Aaron Jones. But
I don't hate it. I don't
yeah,
hate it.
I feel the same way about DeAndre Swift. Like that's a coin flip. I could wake up tomorrow and be like, no, I want more Swift than I want Aaron Jones. But I think
Yeah.
the thesis for Aaron Jones is simple. Devontae Adams is gone. He could be the team's wide receiver too. He could literally see 80 to 100 targets. I want that upside. I think the floor is safe enough to Aaron Rodgers is going to have that team in enough scoring chances for Aaron Jones' floor to be fine. So
Yeah.
I want to take shots at that ceiling. As far as tight end is concerned, it's Kyle Pitts. I have so much Kyle Pitts in the third round. It's absolutely disgusting. I figure you're probably going to be the same way at tight end.
Well, no, I'm not. I went way deeper than you did. You took an easy way out at tight end.
Alberto.
I mean, of course I love.
I
of course
wrote
I love
Alberto
confidence.
down.
I was
So
asked. I was asked today in the fantasy lounge. I was asked who were my three breakout, like three dark horse or breakout tight ends or something for this year, and all three of them in order. Pat Fryermuth. I think he's raw. I don't care who I don't give a damn who the quarterback is in Pittsburgh. He's a rock solid tight end one, and I'm talking like tight end 4 or 5 range, I believe. Alberto, of course, and then I think a dark horse guy that is going undrafted that you're going to be able to scoop up on waivers if you have a free bench spot right now. I think this is a guy that you really need to look at. I think Brevin Jordan out of Houston is
he's a good player.
Yeah, I think so, and I think he could really end the season as number 2 in target. Now I don't think he will because I think Nico Collins will finish behind or in front of Brandon Cooks in targets. But don't be surprised if Brevin Jordan is like tight end, is it like a low end tight end 1, 9, 10, something like that. Brevin Jordan's a guy that I think could really. You're not drafting him in redraft, right? I mean, if you're in a 2 tight end league where you start 2 tight ends, he's your tight end 3. You're not drafting him as your tight end 2. But
no,
Brevin
he's
Jordan,
he's a wait and see type player.
Yes.
You draft him as a wait and see.
You put him on your watch list. You go on Sleeper.
Have the name on your radar.
Yeah, you go on Sleeper and you pull up his player tag, his player page, and you tap that star. You put him on your watch list. And that way you can easily add him if you need to during the season. And then receivers for me, we talked about KJ Osborne. Love him this year. I think he's a really solid bet for solid wide receiver 2 value in fantasy. And let me tell you something about Michael Pittman Jr. MPJ. I think Michael Pittman is a stone cold wide receiver 1 in fantasy. It would not surprise me if he finishes the season as a top 5 wide receiver in fantasy, even on that run-heavy offense. I'm not going to say he's going to be a wide receiver 5 or better in fantasy, but he's definitely going to be a top 10 wide receiver in fantasy for me. I think the volume's going to be there. We know,
he's AJ Green light, dude. Michael Pittman's the truth.
Yeah, look, Michael Pittman, he's unbelievable. So if you're let me put it this way: if you're somebody who's like me and goes running back heavy early in the draft, and you go into the season with Michael Pittman as your wide receiver 1, as I have in many of my redrafts, or as I will in many of my redrafts, I'm perfectly fine with that. I think he is an absolute rock solid choice to have as your wide receiver 1 in fantasy.
Chris, if you can draft 3 running backs like back to back in the first 3 rounds and then still end up with Michael Pittman, let me know.
Well, I'm not even saying
I'm being serious. Let me know.
I'm not even.
He
saying,
goes with the 2-3 turn on underdog.
I'm not even saying. Well, that's because that's another thing. That's because there's something in this best ball underdog community about wide receivers and like drafting wide receivers super early. Like that's another reason why you can't trust those underdog ADPs. But to me, I'm not even talking about 3 straight running backs like I did last year. Even if you're going 2 straight running backs and then you go Pittman in the third, that's fine too. That's fine with that.
I'm fine with Michael Pittman as my 1 personally.
Yeah, I mean,
I love him as my 2, but I'm fine with him as my 1.
Yeah, he's going as wide receiver 14 right now, and he's like 37th overall. I think.
Yeah. All right, we got to wrap this up, so let's just throw our super flexes at each other.
Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins is awesome. Kirk Cousins is he's.
I love him.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, in a perfect world, Fields would be my super flex, not my QB1. But some other honorable mentions here. You got to talk about Jameis Winston, and Jameis Winston is a quarterback that I am going out of my way to stack, and I'm going out of my way to stack him with Chris Olave. So Jameis Winston's a really good one for me.
I like
Trevor
that.
Lawrence is a really good one for me, and I'm going out of my way to stack him. I take Christian Kirk at cost. I don't think he's a bad pick at cost, but I actually really, really like backdooring Trevor Lawrence with like Zay Jones or Visca Chenault. Obviously, the upside isn't crazy,
Mm.
but Zay Jones got paid a hell of a lot of money to come to Jacksonville. I think he's going to get an opportunity to start with the team. He's
Yeah,
going to get an opportunity to start. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't have high expectations, but
yeah.
crazier things have happened.
These are real life guys that I'm not. Now Christian Kirk, in that draft, Christian Kirk was my number one receiver in that draft, and I still love Christian Kirk. Now I don't know if maybe he will turn into the guy that I thought he would turn into now that he's in Jacksonville. He still has time to do that. He better do that because he ruined the wide receiver market as far as money goes, or completely reset it. But
Now, keep in mind though, Zay Jones and Visca are last round dart throws. Just keep that in mind. Like I'm not taking these guys back to back with Lawrence in the 12th and then taking one of these guys on the 13th. These are last round picks. So
yeah,
they're just dart throws, and I'm stacking them with either my QB3 or my Superflex.
yeah. Well, and like I said, Kirk Cousins is my I couldn't love him anymore. I mean, we've seen how good Kirk Cousins has been. He's already been a solid QB2 in fantasy.
He's also easy to backdoor with KJ Osborne though.
Yes, he is. And I don't want to hear Irv Smith's name, but yes, KJ Osborne, 100%.
I'll draft Irv Smith. I don't feel great about it. I prefer Cole Kmet at cost because they go like right next to each other.
Yeah,
and when I say I prefer Cole Kmet, I mean like I take Cole Kmet if he's there 100% of the time over Irv Smith.
Yeah.
But if Kmet's gone, I'll take Irv Smith. I'm fine with it.
I'll take Brevin Jordan over Irv Smith.
I get it.
I get it. We know we've read the Irv Smith book. We know what the ending is. I'm done. I'm not reading it again. So that's just my whole thing. But yes, Kirk Cousins to me as a pure Kirk Cousins has been a dynamite QB2 in Superflex leagues for several years now on a run heavy team. Now Kevin O'Connell as the offensive coordinator comes in as a guy who's going to install a pass happy offense with Jordan Jefferson in his third season, KJ Osborne, Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook, and Alex Matt. Let me tell you something. Kirk Cousins is the guy that you need to have in every single league that you're in this year. I think Kirk Cousins is in for a massive fantasy season.